Well, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to begin with those extreme flash floods that are continuing to ravage the Northeast.
President Biden has declared a state of emergency for Vermont after some areas there received more than 10 inches of rain in just hours. The town of Ludlow was one of the areas hit hardest yesterday. This was the scene following the downpour, leaving the town completely cut off from emergency crews. Officials say the damage is already comparable to Tropical Storm Irene, which struck the region back in 2011. New York is also reeling from flash flooding that drenched Orange County on Sunday. State officials are beginning to assess the damage left behind as the water there recedes. Rescue teams are also looking for those who are still missing in the wake of the floods. Both floods in New York and Vermont have been described as once-in-a-thousand-year events. And across the South, the dangerous heat wave rolls on, leaving millions under an excessive heat warning. Places like Phoenix, high temps have been about 110 degrees for 10 straight days. The National Weather Service warns the heat wave could last into next week. We have Orange County Executive Stephen Newhouse standing by to tell us more about the state of emergency in New York. But first, let's bring in meteorologist Angie Lassman to tell us where the rain is heading next.
Yeah. Hey, Angie, good morning.
Good morning, guys. We still have those flood alerts up. We still have some rain lingering in parts of the New England area, but we're going to see that come to an end today. So that's what we see on the bright side of things, but still picking up a little additional rain for places like Burlington right now. And here's those flood alerts that we see in effect at this time. Mainly flood watches. We've got one flash flood warning in effect right now, but this does not take into consideration the river flooding. We're going to talk about that in a moment, but this is just when it comes to the additional rainfall and what we've already seen fallen in that area. Here's the system that we're continuing to watch. This is what I meant when I said we're going to see some drier skies here as we get through the later parts of today and especially into tomorrow. The system pulls away, takes with it most of the rain, but we'll still have some lingering showers this morning and maybe some spotty showers left over into the afternoon hours. Of course, any additional rain doesn't help the already really devastating situation we have going on in these areas. When we talk about river flooding, we've got a couple of spots that are dealing with major flood stages and moderate flood stages. Those are mainly focused through parts of Vermont and into New Hampshire. We've got a couple stretching a little farther south as well. But here's the flood alerts when you add those on. We've got the flash flood warning in effect for some of those places that you saw those moderate and major flood stages. And we're going to continue to be seeing that here as we go through the next day or so. We'll be watching for the best chance for storms in the northern plains, though, as we transition into the afternoon hours today. We've got a new front that's going to dive into parts of the center of the country, eventually stretch across parts of the Midwest, and it'll bring, once again, those heavy rains now focused towards places like Omaha, St. Louis, Kansas City could see some additional rainfall in Chicago, too. We'll be watching for that as we go through the day today with localized amounts up to 4 inches. So some flooding concerns there. And on top of that, some strong storms. We've got the hail possible. We've got the large hail and the strong winds as well, even a tornado or two possible. Same kind of area, but the biggest threat's going to be the baseball-size hail. And unfortunately, guys, as we get into tomorrow, this threat will shift a little farther to the east and include parts of the Midwest for our Wednesday.
Feels like we only have two choices right now, oppressive heat or severe storms.
That's about it, right?
All right. Angie, thank you.
Thanks, Angie. All right, well, now let's bring in Orange County Executive Stephen Newhouse with an update on the flooding in New York. Stephen, good morning. Thank you for joining us on what I'm sure is a busy day for you. So first, just walk us through what you are hearing from residents, seeing on the ground right now at this point, now that some of that water is starting to recede.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on. It's definitely gotten better every day. Sunday was a complete nightmare for us. I mean, if the first responders, we were literally trapped in the Highland Falls, Fort Montgomery, West Point area. If you responded as a first responder, the roads literally deteriorated after you came in, and we were pretty much trapped there till about midnight on Sunday night. So things have gotten a lot better. Unfortunately, we did lose somebody, a young lady in her mid-40s, and now we're on the repair and assessment stage. We're doing multiple repairs on roads to open that whole area up, and obviously doing major assessments on bridges. Some of them have been so undermined that we really don't think that they can hold any weight like a car or a vehicle. So the folks themselves, the people, we set up an emergency shelter. Many people in that entire region have had significant damage to their homes and businesses. So we did tour the area yesterday with the governor, spoke to our congressional delegation. We're hoping to get some major FEMA monies to do some repairs there. West Point is also included in my area. They have some significant damage as well.
Wow, it's just terrible to hear about the bridges and the roads because, of course, that's a longer recovery road. I do want to talk now about that process and first play a little bit of sound from Governor Kathy Hochul yesterday about this process moving forward. First, let's listen to that, and I'll ask you something on the other side.
The first step is assessment. Assess the damage, assess the monetary value of the damage so we can put in our request for FEMA assistance to help the communities have the resources they need to rebuild. We can't turn our eyes any longer to the fact that we have to build up areas, homes and businesses that are in low-lying areas are going to need to be lifted up. Otherwise, we're ignoring the reality that flooding is part of life now here in the state of New York.
So what is your plan to begin this recovery process? Where do you start with all those things you just laid out for us? And then also, I kind of want to seize on that last part of what the governor said there, which is the fact that this is part of our future. Does your recovery plan include ways to try to prevent this in the future, to try to sort of flood-proof things if this is going to be happening more often?
Great question. So first thing is to get our utilities back online. Like they had 2 sewer plants, the village and a town in that community. They've been completely overwhelmed. Some of it is intact. Some of it on Sunday night where we found the remains of the unfortunate lady that we lost was right near one of our sewer plants, and there was a 15-inch main that had just been severed. It just went right into the Hudson River. So those are the initial things, so we can at least get water and sewer and electricity back to the folks that live in that area. But as she mentioned, you need to build back bigger and better. I don't know if you could ever do anything in that region that can withstand a storm like we had, 8 inches of rain in just a few hours of time. But we could definitely build that infrastructure better. It's all old. It's all archaic. So there definitely could be a significant improvement.
Stephen Newhouse, thank you so much. Again, we appreciate you joining us on a busy day. Good luck to you as you begin this recovery process.
This morning, NATO members are gathering for the start of a 2-day summit that could have major implications for the war in Ukraine. President Biden has joined other NATO leaders in Lithuania for the meeting. High on the agenda is the future of Ukraine's relationship with the military alliance, including how or when Ukraine could become a member. NATO Secretary General says he supports fast-tracking the membership.
I'm confident that we will make strong and united decisions on Ukraine, both to sustain and step up our support. I'm also confident that on the membership issue, allies will reaffirm that Ukraine will become a member.
NBC News correspondent Ali Arouzi joins us now from the Lithuanian capital. So, Ali, we know NATO's leader is pushing to fast-track Ukraine's NATO membership. Can we expect to see consensus on this issue from all NATO members? And what's the Biden administration saying about it?
Hey, Joe. Well, there is a split amongst NATO members whether to fast-track Ukraine into NATO or not. There are some countries that want to see this happen. The Balkan states in this region, which are in Russia's orbit, want to see that happen quickly. Poland wants to see that happen quickly. The UK wants to see that happen quickly. But the Biden administration wants some restrictions. They don't want this fast-tracked. They have some issues with Ukraine's democratization. Germany also agree with the U.S. on this issue. Now, President Biden met with Stoltenberg this morning. He praised him, saying that there was nobody more experienced to lead NATO. And he spoke about, that the language for putting Ukraine into NATO is all correct. But that's falling on deaf ears in Ukraine. Ukraine is very frustrated about this. They feel that this is a continuation of the 2008 Bucharest summit, where commitments were made, but Ukraine wasn't allowed in. And just this morning, President Zelensky tweeted out that it's absurd that Ukraine doesn't have a clear track to join NATO. So there is a clear divide amongst the countries. What is for sure is that they cannot join NATO while this conflict is ongoing, and Ukraine realizes that as well, because that will really broaden the conflict to include the United States and many European countries. So there's still a long way to go till there's proper consensus on a clear path for Ukraine to join NATO.
Ali, one country that is set to become the next member of the alliance now is Sweden. That's after Turkey dropped its opposition following talks yesterday. How did they manage to break that impasse?
Well, there's been a lot of wrangling behind the scenes to get Turkey to agree to let Sweden in. Finland was let in, but Sweden had a lot of other issues with Turkey. Turkey wanted some guarantees that the PKK would be put under pressure in Sweden. We've seen some elements of that happening. And I think there was a big push from NATO saying, listen, we need unity right now, especially in the face of this invasion from Russia. And I think that was what finally convinced Erdogan to let Sweden join. And let's make no mistake, Joe, it's a really big deal for Sweden to join. This is a country that really didn't want to join NATO. They were invited in 1949 when NATO was first formed. They didn't want to join. They stayed neutral in the First and Second World Wars. They chose a policy of a non-alignment in peacetime and neutrality during war. But the only reason they're joining now is because of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, because of their security. And President Biden welcomed the 32nd member of the NATO state. So this is a big deal for NATO. It strengthens NATO and it further isolates Russia.
Ali Aruzzi in Lithuania. Ali, thank you so much.
We're going to continue our coverage now with John Herbst, who's the former U.S. ambassador to Ukraine and now the senior director of the Atlantic Eurasia Center. Ambassador Herbst, good morning. Thank you so much for being with us. Let's begin with President Biden. He's taking part today in this meeting. It's specifically of this one particular group within NATO, the North Atlantic Council. Explain to us the importance of this group and also the president's role in that council.
Well, the thing is, this is the NATO summit. So Biden is going to be meeting with all of our NATO allies. And the importance is that they will then take decisions on major issues facing the alliance. We've already mentioned, Finland and Sweden are joining. They're going to be strengthening NATO's posture in the east, the areas near the Russian border. And they're also going to be discussing the long-term relationship of NATO with Ukraine, where we just a little bit of progress.
So President Biden,
as you already described.
And, excuse me, President Biden is also going to meet with the president of Turkey today. I want to ask you about this. As we heard just a moment ago, Turkey did agree to support Sweden's bid to join NATO after that initial resistance. There was this handshake moment yesterday at the summit to mark that. That's what we're seeing here. What can we expect from this meeting between the two leaders today?
I think this is going to be a very friendly meeting. I think Biden is pleased that Erdogan finally made up his mind. I think we expected this to happen, not at the very last hour. But it has happened in time for the summit, and that's the most important thing. There's a difficult relationship between Ankara and Washington, but one where I think both sides recognize the importance of working together.
A senior administration official says President Biden is expected also to meet with Ukrainian President Zelensky at the summit tomorrow. Biden's also expected to deliver a speech the same day, address the war in Ukraine. What are you looking for, both from that speech as well as from that meeting?
Well, the meeting is designed, again, to seek better cooperation between Kyiv and Washington. Of course, Ukraine is dependent upon the substantial aid that the United States has sent, military and economic. But they complain, rightly in my judgment, that we have dripped in that aid and we still are holding back weapon systems that Ukraine needs in order to defeat the Russians on the battlefield. So they will talk about that. Zelensky will also, I think, ask President Biden to take another look, at least in time for the Washington summit, at more forward steps that the United States could take, that NATO could take, to bring Ukraine faster into the alliance.
Ambassador Herbst, thank you so much. We always appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Thank you, Savannah.
New this morning, the legal team for former President Trump is asking a federal judge to delay his federal trial until after the 2024 election. Now, that's the case that centered on Trump's alleged mishandling of classified materials. The trial was originally expected to begin next month, but special counsel Jack Smith then requested it be delayed until December. In a court filing, lawyers for Trump and his co-defendant, Walt Nauta, say that beginning a trial within 6 months would, quote, result in a miscarriage of justice. The filing also points out that Trump is running for re-election and that Nauta is required to accompany the former president during most of his campaign stops. Trump was indicted last month on 37 counts. He's accused of mishandling dozens of classified documents that were found at his Mar-a-Lago home last year. Trump pleaded not guilty to the charges and has denied any wrongdoing.
Now, the Kremlin says Russian President Vladimir Putin met with the leader of the mercenary Wagner group and his commanders just days after that aborted Moscow mutiny. NBC News chief international correspondent Keir Simmons has the details.
It is bizarre, hard to fathom. Choose your description. What we're being told tonight by the Kremlin is that 5 days after a mutiny that President Putin himself said could have caused a civil war in Russia, that he described as a stab in the back, he sat down with those same mutineers, 35 of them, for almost 3 hours, that he heard them out and that he offered them new roles on the Ukrainian front line. I think what's happening is the Kremlin is responding to Belarus last week, showing us tents, empty tents where Wagner fighters, these mutineers, were supposed to be in exile. And President Lukashenko of Belarus telling us that actually Yevgeny Prigozhin, the leader of this group, probably wouldn't come to Belarus and live in exile after all. I think this is the Kremlin trying to pull back the narrative and say President Putin is still in charge. He sat down with these guys. He had a conversation, but it leaves so many questions. Where is Yevgeny Prigozhin now? Where are those Wagner fighters? And for President Putin, the danger is that looking like he hasn't crushed this has an impact on him. Of course, the trouble with trying to crush it is that that itself could cause a backlash. So it does appear that the Kremlin continues to try to navigate a very difficult balance, and that the implications and ramifications of what happened on that day of mutiny are still playing out for President Putin.
All right, Keir Simmons, thank you so much. And on a related programming note, make sure to check out On Assignment with Richard Engel, Revolt from Within, The Rise of Wagner. That's on tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern, right here on NBC News Now.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.